You're watching Morning at NTV.
All right, you can't afford not to smile when it comes to this next conversation. You do have individuals who are proposing the ring fencing of Nile Perch for exports, so that Ugandans might rather, clamor for tilapia, because tilapia, when it comes to the European Union, you do not have much bigger demand for the same within the EU. But for Nile Perch, yes, there's a lot of money that is being clamored for within the European Union. So you do have exporters of fish who are saying Uganda should ring fence Nile Perch for these exports, and they should continue consuming tilapia because it's not well sought for within the European Union. So for a week now, the Parliamentary Agriculture Committee has been handling the Fish and Aquaculture Amendment Bill. However, the hearings in this committee finally caught the attention of the public when the Association of Fish Exporters proposed that the Nile Perch be reserved for the export market. So what is happening and why is this bill so important? We do have Mr. Robert Ndugwa Migadde, the MP for Buvuma Islands, who is joining me right now. But let me first interest you with this clip courtesy of Ivan Walonyolo, showcasing some of the 2 cents that were divulged by members of the fishing communities over the same. Here's more.
Well, thank you very much, Rami Usiku, and our audience. I am coming to you from Bungu landing site in Entebbe Municipality, Wakiso District, on a discussion that, of course, has attracted a lot of mixed reactions from the public and many other people. The decision by the businessmen to say that Nile Perch should not be sold here on local market and be reserved for an international market, given the demand it has. This is something, an engagement, a discussion that, of course, is attracting many people to have views on. But here where I am, it's one of the biggest landing sites we have in Entebbe, and this beautiful morning, just like you can see, the fishermen have just come out of the lake, and some of them are trying to sort what they have succeeded in, getting inside the lake here. Njagala kubeera nga njogerako n'abaana abakulu batubulire bo kiki kye balowooza ku eyo ekirowoozo oba ekiteese ekyatwalidda mu palamenti nti engege empuuta terina kubeera nga eriibwa wano mu ggwanga engeri gy'erina akatale ak'amaanyi ebweru, enuuni ne ebirala ebigwa mu ttulube. Bakulu bano batubuulire bo kiki kye balowooza ku eyo ensonga. Njagala kubeera nga ntandika n'ono omukulu eyeetiise n'empuuta. Sebo nkwaniriza ku NTV.
Nga ffe abatuuze b'Entebbe kaakati tugenda ne tuvuba ebyennyanja bino n'oleeta omuyindi gwe tutamanyi nako buno yatutegeerere mu kulya ku kyennyanja ffe bannansi abagenda ne tukivuba kati tunabeera nakyo mu lyato abantu banategeera mbu ovuba abaana boogenda obagambe munavubye mukene oba navubye busonko ng'ovuba ekyennyanja omwana waalema ekkiryako gwe munnansi ate okiriisa omuzungu.
Kati bo bagamba nti ekyennyanja kino empuuta eno erina akatale k'amaanyi nnyo ebweru era kayinza okuleeta ssente nnyingi nnyo gwe tebagala okirire wankuba ojja kuba ofiiriza eggwanga.
Naffe tusobola okigula kuba ffe tuli bannansi.
Namwe mulinamu ku ssente? Naffe
tulinamu ku ssente, lwaki okitugyako ate okiwe atali munnansi?
Kanjogereko noono omukulu nkwaniza ku NTV otubule endowooza yo ku nsonga y'okubeera nti empuuta bagala gitunda bweru wano, bagamba nti ssente nnyingi ziri eyo.
Empuuta kituufu ssente nnyingi bagamba ziri bweru, era gavumenti ejja etulambika negamba nti efuna ssente empitirivu nnyo mu byennyanja byaffe ebya Uganda. N'ekiba kya bulabe nnyo okuggyako munnansi okuba nga tasobola kulya ku kyennyanja ekiva mu nnyanja ey'ensi ye. Ate nga abasawo batugamba nti ekyennyanja kino kyolaba ng'ekyempuuta kirimu ekirungo kye bayita ekyomega, nti kirungi nnyo mu kujjanjaba abantu mu bulamu bwaffe obwa bulijjo. Okugeza nti bwe weetoloola ennyanja eno eya Victoria eriko abantu abasinga obungi baba balwadde, naye olw'okuba bakozesa ekyennyanja ekirimu ekirungo ky'omega tukizuula nti abantu basigala nga balamu ng'era we bali erese. Kati bw'ogamba nti ffenna bannansi ekyennyanja nga bannansi tetukiryako bakitikke nga butiisi nga bakitwala, nti nze ndaba nti olwo gavumenti eba ekutte ekkuba ekyamu eriyinza n'okuba nti liyinza okuleeta akatabanguko mu ggwanga. Twagala gavumenti etekewo enkola ennungi ekikwatagana n'ekyennyanja munnansi akiryeko n'ekirala nga bakitwala ebweru. Eno kino kyekyennyanja kye bayita ekyempuuta. Tukakasa gavumenti ekifunamu ssente nnyingi nnyo okutunula ng'ennuuni n'ennyama y'ekyennyanja.
Empuuta eno saawa zino ekilo emu wano bagigula sente meka?
Eno empuuta bagula okusinziira ku kilo emu okudda ku kilo 2 eri mu mutwalo gumu kasanvu. Eno empuuta ya kilo 5 okudda waggulu eri mu mitwalo 2. Kitegeeza nti ekyennyanja kya bbeeyi naye naffe bannansi tulina okyeyagaliramu nga tukiryako n'abantu abalala bonna ab'eggwanga Uganda okulaba nga bafunamu ekyo ekiva mu nnyanja yaabwe ya Victoria.
Mukulu kiki olowooza ku eyo ensonga abakulu gye batadde mu palamenti?
Ensonga nga nze Mugerwa Muhammad kyenjogerako ndi muvubi maze ebbanga ddene liri myaka nga 27 naye kati gwe oba olaba musajja nange mbuuza gwe ekibuuzo gwe oba olaba walikiriziddwa gwe okuba n'okulya ekyennyanja kino ng'oli munnauganda gwe wali olabye osobola okukkiriza okugaana okulya ekyennyanja kino ng'oli munnauganda nze ndaba kuva edda nedda ffe tukuze kati ndi myaka 42 okiwulira tukuze ffe tulaba bajjajjaffe nga tulya ekyennyanja kati ogamba ota nti ekyennyanja kive mutamu kigende mu bazungu.
Kanfuna ono omukulu asemba onatubulye kiki olowooza ku nsonga abakulu gye batadde mu palamenti?
Ensonga gye batadde ku palamenti labira ddala sebuli muvubi bampita Chris. Ensonga gye batadde ku palamenti labira ddala kino kya bulimba bennyini kubanga toyinza okuvuba empuuta n'otokiryako agita takiwoomya.
Bagamba sente ziri eyo.
Sente ziri eyo kituufu era tumanyi nti sente ziri eyo naye naffe batuleke tusobole okulyamu bafunye wakati nikensobola kulya naffe katulyeko kitine eddala ki zigende ebweru.
Naye bagamba bwe musobola kulya engege n'ebirala tebabiganye naye empuuta
eno erimu ebiriisa bingi nnyo era tulina okulya ku mpuuta bolwaki tebaagala kulya engege nabo balye ku ngege. N'ekirala kyendaba ndabika abazungu bano engeri batandise n'okulobaloba wano baagala kweddiza ennyanja batandike okwevubira ffe batugobe. Ekyo kyendaba ng'ensonga nkulu.
Ku lwakadde mbadde nsaba tukomaawo batugamba kadde kakendeddemu katonotono naye mwebale kuteesa ensonga zammwe naffe tuzitwalanga kikulu. That has been some of the fishermen here at the landing side telling us what they think of the suggestion, the discussion that is attracting mixed reactions from Parliament about having the Nile Perch sold, being reserved for international market given the demand which is there. But of course the views have been given by the fishermen here, and for now I want to hand over to you back in the studio, Ramya Busiku. Pick it away from me. A very good morning to you and our audience.
A conversation you cannot afford to have without a smile stretching from ear to ear. Banning local consumption of Nile Perch. Very, very laughable. Well, Uganda actually boasts of a total catch of 447,000 metric tons of fish. That is on an annual basis. 86,000. That is some 86,000 total fish catch of Nile Perch annually, and also 49,000 total fish catch of tilapia. Meaning we are catching more Nile Perch than we are catching tilapia, simply because Nile Perch is more expensive and more sought for within the European Union. But then ring-fencing Nile Perch, that is the most laughable issue ever. But I do have Robert Ndugwa Migadde, MP for Buvuma Islands, because it's clear the fish exporters do not want competition for their business. Let's interact. Very good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, viewers.
Exactly what are we dealing with right here? What is the basis of this debate? How did it even start in that regard?
It's fortunate that this debate is not coming from the bill which is before Parliament.
Indeed.
But it is unfortunate that it is being proposed by the leading exporters. And that means that already the spirit in which it's coming, there is a lot of conflict of interest. It is surprising that you see the members, the Ugandans need to know that the determinant for the price of fish is actually the fish meal. And if we go back many years ago, in the early 1950s, when the Nile Perch was introduced, for example, into Lake Victoria, there were other fish species, over 100 of them. And the locals were actually feeding on these different fish species. So there was no need to export the so-called male, the different catfish species. So the coming of the Nile Perch led to vanishing of over 100 fish species, because the Nile Perch feeds on those different fish species. So alternatives for the locals are now very limited. That even the Nile Perch, which was coming as a commercial species, has now become a domestic species. But we have to clearly understand why are the fish factories or the fish processors proposing that the fish should be, Nile Perch should be ring-fenced for the export market. Today, the fish processors are much interested in buying Nile Perch at the lowest price possible.
So literally they are hoarding the fish.
Exactly. So if they allow competition, then they will not be able to influence price. So if they ring fence that Nile Perch must go to the factory, and when you move around Uganda, you may have about 9 fish factories. 6 of them are owned by one person. So whether you go to Jinja, you go to Katosi, you go to Sen, you go to Entebbe, you're actually interfacing with the same buyer. So in the past, we have had prices of Nile Perch go up to 3,000 shillings. And we have gone to Parliament to make an alarm. We have had meetings. We have interacted with fish processors. And in one of the meetings, the fish processors told him that the best way to, Honorable, you tell your people that the best way to increase this price is for them to reduce on the amount of fish that they are bringing to the factory.
I see.
So we have noticed that the fish factories...
If there's too much fish, lesser prices.
But
demand increases the
exactly.
prices.
But it's also important to note that the fish factories don't have capital. They have very limited capital. They use the capital from the ordinary fishing community to trade. And actually the practice is you take fish and maybe wait after a week, some wait a month, others wait for a year for them to be paid. There is no agreement, supply contract that you are bringing this. So you see, because fish is perishable, so your options are very limited. So what these people want is because, of course, in the past, this wasn't happening because they had not yet discovered the secret in the fish maw. So if what they are trying to do that, if fish is consumed in Buvuma, they will not be able to get the fish maw in Kampala. So actually the target is not the fresh.
It is the fish maw.
They are targeting the fish maw.
The swim bladder.
The swim bladder. And you know that if we encourage, that's why you have heard of recent, you have even had bans on smoking of fish. Because when you smoke fish maw, there is no one who is smoking it with the swim bladder or the fish. I mean, when you smoke Nile Perch, no one is smoking it with fish maw. You first gut the fish, then you remove the fish maw. So they are not sure whether they will be able to get
being thrown away.
No, they are not.
They do not know the benefits.
They know. Actually, there are other competitors. Even in Buvuma, the people know very well. Even the other competitors actually buying fish maw from Buvuma, some buying in Karangara. But these suppliers in Kampala are not sure whether the other fish maw from the fish gutted in Buvuma will reach them.
I see.
So the best way that they want that fish maw to reach them is to ban local consumption, so that you only have one destination for fish, and that is. But then we have to.
So ideally, they're trying to do away with the competition.
Exactly.
From the island communities and the end users of the fish maw.
Yeah, but
the exporters.
This will not only affect the price of fish maw, but even the price of the Nile Perch.
You know, the viewers who are watching Morning at NTV might be wondering, why are we even talking about fish? You see, the fish maw is actually very expensive, and it's clamored for or very, very sought after within China and Hong Kong. A kilo of fish maw goes between 1.6 million Uganda shillings and 3.5 million Uganda shillings, a simple kilo. Now imagine if you have like 10 kilos.
But that's not what the ordinary Ugandan gets. And you see, that's where we have a problem.
Indeed.
The ordinary Ugandan in Buvuma is selling a kilo at 200,000, for example. 200,000
Uganda shillings.
Yes. But when you try to go in the world market, you will see that maybe a kilo goes to 1.5. There is already exploitation.
Indeed.
Even amidst the existing situation, there is already exploitation.
So even the ban itself would be to exploit these fishing communities more.
Exactly. But then even before we look at the fish more, fish is food. Fish is food. Indeed. And according to the World Health Organization, we still have very low fish consumptions according to what they recommend. And by now, we should be interesting Ugandans in increasing their fish uptakes. And we're asking ourselves, why is it when you move along the roads, you're going to see a stall for pork of recent everywhere. You see another joint for, in fact, the most recent where we had a bomb blast, it's a pork joint.
Where members of security were.
Yes.
Go ahead.
What are the chances that you'll have a similar scenario at a Nile Perch eating joint?
Don't you think it's because fishing in this country was heavily militarized? When we did put UPDF on many of these water bodies, it meant that many of these individuals who were actually engaged in this trade either decided to leave the trade or actually work for reduced hours, meaning the demand for these fish actually increased in the wake of activities actually dwindling down because of the operations of the UPDF. Don't you think it's because of the operations?
It's one of the reasons, but as a country we have also not promoted local consumption of the Nile Perch or the fish. And in one or the other, it has actually affected the price. So there is limited competition because for the other products, there's also an increase in local consumption as opposed to this Nile Perch. But at the end of the day, what we want is competition. The fish processors must be asking themselves, why are people choosing to smoke fish and take it to Congo and take it to South Sudan? That's where they think they will get the best price. Today we have a community, you know, 90% of the women in the fishing community actually doing fish smoking. So when you ban local consumption, you're not only banning local consumption, but you're also banning employment. You're doing out with employment. Because 90% of those women are actually into fish smoking.
So this was seriously a very, very, very self-centered initiative, proposal, if you will.
Actually, we are in the ideal situation, we should not actually be debating this.
Indeed.
And I want to thank the members of the fishing community.
Indeed.
They must be very calm. And I think
I saw them there.
Because if it was in other countries, if it was in other sectors, just imagine today if you woke up and say, beef should not be consumed locally.
Because we want to export it.
What will happen what will the beef producers be doing now? They would even be laying roadblocks looking for these people who are proposing
Robert
this.
Ndugwa Migadde, the MP for Buvuma Islands. So let's focus on the bill itself, the Fish and Aquaculture Amendment Bill. Why is the debate coming out now? What is the basis of this debate?
We have had challenges in the past. The previous act gave a lot of powers to the minister. So we have had issues on the floor of Parliament, and these issues have been moving around. One, the size of the boat. Two, when it comes to use of hooks, the past law never provided for a fishing line. It provided for use of hooks, but not a fishing line. So there has been confusion. People's fish has been confiscated because you're using the right size of hook, for example, 1 to 9, but you're using a fishing line. And the argument has been, is it the hook that is getting the fish or the fishing line?
I see.
So we say, no, I think we need to put this to order. One, so that we make it clear in the law that this is what it is. The size of a number of boats have been demolished. Some of them just about 26 feet. And you know, this is a livelihood. So we wanted to make it clear in the law. Then the other issue is on the punishment.
Yes.
The enforcers have always been giving an argument that the reason why they were brutalizing people is because the punishments were too lenient.
I see.
10,000 shillings. And of course, you know,
and this is what the bill seeks to overcome.
Only that what they are proposing is not what we would have expected.
All right, you're going to be acquainting us with more of these details when we come back for a short break. We are talking to Robert Ndugwa Migadde, the MP for Buvuma Islands, on the Fish and Aquaculture Amendment Bill. We'll be right back with more of this information. All right, welcome back and many thanks for staying with us. We are interrogating the Fish and Aquaculture Amendment Bill. I still do have Robert Ndugwa Migadde, MP for Buvuma Islands. Let's talk about some of the proposals that have been birthed to actually be inculcated in this Fish and Aquaculture Amendment Bill. I'm looking at people who are fishing undersized fish who will be making away with 7 years in jail. If you're using poisonous substances, bombs and so forth, you'll end up with 8 years in jail or 200 million Uganda shillings as punishment. Is this, or are they deterrents enough to go a long way in enforcing or stopping the same vice?
You see, we have to agree that there was need to sort of tighten the punishments. Because
UPDF was coming up with its own set of punishments.
Yeah.
Which
UPDF,
were so extreme sometimes.
200 canes.
200 canes?
Yeah, 100. Out of anger, so some were actually shooting. But we must ask ourselves, what is forming 7 years? What is informing 8 years?
And the 200 million.
And the 200 million. You have to ask yourself, why not 3? Why not 50 million? Why 200? Because you see, right now there are so many players in this market. And you know the way we normally operate. After discovery that fish is a lucrative business, especially with fish more, some people interest is not actually to save the lake, but to drive as many players out of the lake, as many players as possible.
So like you're saying, the members of the UPDF have also been engaged in illegal activities on the water bodies.
And in the early days, when the UPDF had just taken over,
yes, Robert,
there was progress. And actually it was very difficult to come across illegal fishing activities. If at all you would find such, they would do it in hiding. With time, many of these same people have got involved in fishing activities.
Instead of enforcing.
Yes. Some of them are route openers for immature fish. Some of them are actually making boats themselves. Some of them are actually marrying from the same communities, because some of them have spent 2 years. So they have in-laws from these same communities. Our proposal when this was, when there were all these issues in Parliament, was that these people should not overstay in the areas. Normally we send troops to Somalia, and you normally see every now and then troops coming back and others going. If we are doing it in Somalia, which is even more costly, where you are going to use a plane and so on, and where mobilization is difficult, why can't we do it on the lake? Now that maybe even after 6 months, you change, so that you try to kill, or you try to kill the vice of either extortion, either dealing in the similar business. So currently, that's the problem.
So how will this bill, the Fish and Aquaculture Amendment Bill, help us alleviate all these challenges?
One,
how is it a game changer?
One is, it's true, we need some harsh punishment. And I would be okay if, for example, there was a proposal of 3 years.
I see.
That is not pushing this person out of the fishing business.
Indeed.
And maybe after some 3 years, this person will come back a reformed person and then practice fishing. 7 years is actually pushing this person out of the fishing industry,
Indeed.
there are chances that this person will never come back.
Even the 200 million Ugandan shillings.
The 200 million.
How
But
many
then-
have it?
But then you see, any law must be enforceable. If you have a law which is saying a person who cannot afford 5,000 shillings in a day should pay 200 million, this is not enforceable. You only, unless you are targeting fish factories, that if you find an immature fish in your factory, you will pay 200 million, because those are the ones who can actually afford that.
Indeed.
So we need to borrow it from other sectors. What is the punishment if one was caught harvesting immature coffee? What is the punishment if one, maybe if there was a quarantine?
I see.
Don't move cattle beyond this place. If one was caught moving cattle at night,
Is the punishment 200
what
million
is the
Ugandan
punishment?
shillings?
So that's
So
where-
why go extreme when it comes to the fishing community?
Then it ceases to be a punishment. And you see,
Like a
the worry-
deterrent, like they don't want people to fish
Exactly.
anymore.
And the worry is, the punishment, we are not only looking at immature fish, but you can also be got with a boat which is 26 feet, and the requirement is 28. So that 2 feet can land you into 7 years, because you have illegal gear. 2 feet. If you are got using hooks, acceptable. That's number 1 to 9. But you're using a monofilament fishing line. That is illegal gear. So much as you have mature fish, the right size of hooks, but you have this fishing line. So that one can land you into 5 years.
Robert, even after the passing of this Fish and Aquaculture Amendment Bill, shall we see the UPDF enforcing the guidelines?
According to the proposals, they are proposing a paramilitary
I see.
force. And personally, I believe that the members of the fishing community should still be given a chance
Indeed.
to really look after their lake. Of course, there were challenges here and there. And you have a fisheries officer
Indeed.
who studied about fishing in class. You have a commissioner who studied about fishing in class. You have a minister who studied, who doesn't know. Let me tell you, I'm on the Agriculture Committee. The other day they brought Nile Perch before the committee, and one member was mistaking it for tilapia. I'm telling you. And I said, but this is tilapia because of the size. And then when it comes to fish more, 99% of members of parliament,
Yes.
even some from fishing community,
Indeed.
didn't know fish more. And then when these people were getting the fish, everyone was very.
And these are the same individuals meant to enact the guidelines.
How does fish more look like? We are the ones to make the laws.
Indeed.
But we actually 90% don't know fish more. So, so therefore, if you leave everything, if you now to another UPDF officer, who also took a lot of time in
Somalia,
Somalia, in the bush and whatever, is not different from this member of parliament who has been sent to parliament but doesn't know what is actually legislating on. So I want to thank the Committee of Agriculture that they have tried to invite as many stakeholders as possible to the extent of even availing fish.
Robert, the other contentious area of the bill is the cost of the tax on fish more and noni. Do you think there's a chance of reducing it? And besides, what are the advantages of fish more? We're talking on the sidelines about the advantages and so forth, what people in the EU are using the fish more for. But let's talk about the tax issue first. Is there a chance of reducing it?
In the last parliament, the Minister of Finance had come with a proposal to tax 70,000 shillings from every kilo.
70,000
of fish more. And personally, my argument was, because I moved the minority report then, but I had a challenge of convincing a parliament which didn't understand the dynamics of the fishing industry.
Indeed.
In fact, I want to tell you, one member and maybe you will not get offended if I mention it. One member, Honorable Nandala Mafai.
Indeed.
When he heard that a kilo was going for 1.5 million, he said, "Oh, you man, that is why you have been putting on expensive suits. You pay tax." Because people
So
don't
that's
understand.
about money.
Because people don't.
Yes.
So the proposal was 70,000, and then my proposal, and why I made the minority, said, but if you are proposing an amount 70,000, not a percentage.
Yes.
Supposing the price of Nile Perch goes to 70,000.
And you're paying 70,000 for the
Yes.
same.
So then I said, no. If the price is let's say 1 million, then it can be 100,000. If it is 800,000, it can be 80.
Depending
If it
on
is
the
50,
elevation.
depending on the price. So that we don't want to see a situation where the price of of fish meal is 100,000 and you are paying 70,000. Yeah? So if
Profit
it is
of only
100,000, you will pay 8%, which is 8,000. So if it was 100,000. But then we have to look at the benefits. Before, you see, before we go to the benefits, you see, it is not ordinary Ugandans that are exporting fish meal. Not ordinary Ugandans. It is highly connected people.
Indeed.
Highly connected.
1.6 million for a kilo, it has to be highly connected
So,
people.
if someone is exporting a ton, that's 1+ billion
I see.
a ton. So these are highly connected people, and the way the fish meal is taken to China is through
The black market. So there is no
not different
definitive
from
price.
smuggling. And some people like it that way. Those highly connected people, because it is easier to exploit
The local fishing
population,
community.
because you never know the price of Nile Perch, of fish meal. So all along we have tried to tell government that what about if you took a deliberative to engage different countries. Now that we know the benefits, one of the benefits when it comes to sophisticated operations, where you have Sicilians and so on, sophisticated operations in a highly, those most very expensive hospitals, the ordinary Uganda will never get a chance of, being operated on using fish meal products. No, that's
In a cesarean.
that's in sophisticated hospitals, not these ones. There are also capsules, coatings, for some very expensive capsules in those developed economies. So the coating of the capsule is out of fish meal because it is highly, highly dissolves. Then there is also, I traveled to China one time, and the most expensive soup in China is from
Nile Perch.
from fish meal, not Nile Perch.
Fish meal itself.
Yeah? It is a preserve of rich people.
The elite.
But then we should ask ourselves, can't we take advantage of this as a country?
We are selling the raw material
How do we add value?
to the fish.
Recently, I heard the president say that we can get money from Nile Perch more than what Saudi Arabia gets from oil. And we are busy investing in Bunyoro, where we have very, very limited oil compared to what is in Saudi Arabia. How about if we invested in the fishing industry and we help these people?
Creation of industries that will go a long way in making sure that we add value to our fish.
If we know that the bigger the Nile Perch, the high chances of having a bigger fish meal. What about if we assist people access acceptable fishing gear so that the Nile Perch can grow? If we are seeing oil roads going to where you have oil, what about if we had the roads going to the fishing industry, fishing areas? Now that the other oil will vanish after a certain period, the lake is here, here now and forever. So we should take advantage of this. But I want to fault the fish processors. You see, when you go to the sugarcane industry, you have outgrowers. And people, even in tea, much as their problems, you have outgrowers. People are given inputs. Then you supply the factory. In the fishing industry, you never find a fish factory lending a single fishing net, not even a hook. So that's why you see these people, they only wait in Kampala in their factory, say bring fish, but they don't participate, they don't help the member of the fishing community at all. Yeah? So that's where I have a problem. And I also want to fault the government. There was a time when fish was the leading export product. What did we do? Do we make any deliberate effort to protect Lake Victoria or to improve? We only made sure that we should increase fish exports. The reason for that.
Currently, Robert, fish exports as far as Nile Perch is concerned account for 548 billion Uganda shillings. That is quite a lot of money. But how
there
was
was a time when it was $426 million.
I see.
$426 million.
Leading export. But then how will the end product of this debate on the Fish and Aquaculture bill end when it comes affect the fish production and also the trade for Ugandans and others?
The end product, and I'm optimistic, and we are ready to do whatever is possible to convince Parliament. The end product should be, of course, there should be punishments, but not deterrent punishments
that stop the whole activities.
Yes. Two, there should be clarity on who is going to do what. Because today, you find a UPDF officer with the boat number plates with the UPDF officer, and the mandate should not be you to distribute the number plates from URA or from Minister of Agriculture. There is a district fisheries officer who should do that, and we should see provision of resources by government to the district local governments to oversee. Because at every sub-county there's a fisheries officer paid every month. At every district there's a district fisheries officer paid every month. So this business of simply collecting taxes from the boats and whatever, then you bring it to Kampala, then you leave those people there without any activity. Then we rather disband them. So we want to see clarity. The other issue that we want to see a fisheries fund. Want to say fisheries fund, so that money from the fishing sector can be plowed back for the benefit of the country.
Money for the fishing sector can be plowed back for the benefit of the sector.
What about when you have royalties?
All right.
What are royalties?
Indeed.
In the from the oil, there are royalties. What are the royalties from the lake?
Robert Ndugwa Migadde, MP for Buvuma Islands. You could go on and on with this conversation. We shall actually seek for your services later on after this bill is passed to actually ask you what the benefits will be for your constituents and the people of Buvuma Islands. How will they benefit from a bill like the Fish and Aquaculture Amendment Bill? Well, thank you very much, Robert, for coming through.
Thank you.